100,000 Ukrainian men of fighting age had fled the country abroad over the past 2 years since the Russian invasion began, with most of them having slipped over the western borders into Poland and Slovakia, despite the Ukrainian government's total ban on all fighting age men from being able to leave the country. And this shrinking pool of manpower for the army has been undermining the remaining soldiers' morale in multiple ways, most notably in terms of troop rotations at the front. Early on into the war, when Ukraine had significantly more volunteers, soldiers were able to be rotated out of the front about every 2 weeks, and were able to enjoy an entire week off. But now in 2024, with fewer numbers, frontline Ukrainian soldiers are adhering an average of a month at the front continually, with only 4 days of rest in between, significantly affecting their ability to keep fighting effectively. In order to try and address the manpower shortage, the Ukrainian government has already adopted several reforms this year, such as by lowering the military draft age for men down from 27 years old to 25 years old, allowing most of the country's prison population, except for the most serious offenders, to enlist with the armed forces in exchange for early release. And in May of 2024, the Ukrainian government also canceled all of its consular services for all male Ukrainian citizens abroad aged between 18 and 60, including canceling all renewals of passports in an attempt to force more Ukrainian men living abroad to return back to the country again and potentially face conscription. And in terms of artillery alone, the Ukrainians were getting outgunned by the Russians in artillery all across the front line by as much as 20-1 before April of this year, when a new $60 billion U.S. military aid package for Ukraine finally passed through the U.S. Congress. But even after that, as recently as August of 2024, the Ukrainians have still been getting outgunned in artillery shells along the front line by a ratio of about 8-1. These manpower and supply issues for Ukraine, on top of the failure of their 2023 counteroffensive, shifted the momentum of the war in the eyes of many back over to the Russians again across 2024. And since the start of the year, the Russians have managed to continually make slow but steady and methodical gains across the Eastern Front with their superior advantages in both firepower and manpower. Since the start of the year, the Russians have thrown hundreds of thousands of their soldiers against the Ukrainian defenses of the Donetsk province in the east, and they've gained nearly 1,200 square kilometers of territory in the process, including the significant capture of Avdiivka that was accomplished in February of 2024, a major suburb of the city of Donetsk that had a pre-war population of 31,000 people. Since then, the Russians have methodically advanced at enormous cost across an axis in the Donetsk province towards the towns of Chasiv Yar, Kostiantynivka, Toretsk, and New York in the north, and towards the highly strategic town of Pokrovsk in the center. With a pre-war population of around 60,000 residents, Pokrovsk is a major town and a highly important logistical center for the Ukrainian army, as it sits precisely on the Highway T-054, which links several other currently Ukrainian-held cities in Donetsk, like Kostiantynivka and Chasiv Yar, and Kramatorsk and Slavyansk further to the north. As it currently stands as of mid to late August 2024 when I made this video, the Russian army has punched to be within only 13 kilometers of Pokrovsk, and if they succeed in capturing it, it will sever one of Ukraine's primary highways that they use to supply their forces in Kostiantynivka and Chasiv Yar. And then, if the Russians are able to capture those undersupplied towns next, their path will become fully open to advance on the major cities of Kramatorsk and Slavyansk in the north next, which are the final 2 major cities of the Donetsk province that continue to remain under Ukrainian control outside of Russian occupation, each of them with pre-war populations of more than 100,000 people. If Russia ultimately succeeds in capturing these final 2 cities in Donetsk, then they will effectively complete their occupation of the entire Donetsk province, and it will become very difficult for the Ukrainians to then eject them from it militarily, especially when considering that Russia already effectively controls the entirety of the neighboring Luhansk province as well. It all starts with Russia's capture of Pokrovsk, and if they're successful there, it could eventually lead to Russia's full control and occupation of the entire Donbas region next, a major wartime goal of the Kremlin's, and which could then lead to Moscow focusing their army's next moves on pursuing their other major wartime objectives in the southern theater, completing their occupations of the provinces of Zaporizhia and Kherson too, all of which Russia has already unilaterally declared to have annexed and declared to be core Russian territories. And at the same time as this major Russian push towards Pokrovsk has been ongoing, the Russians also opened up another new front in the war in May of 2024, when they launched a renewed invasion of Ukraine's Kharkiv province in